Birding the Palm Beaches is brought to you by Discover the Palm Beaches. Check out thepalmbeaches.tv to learn more. I'm James Curry, and today we're going to go explore the diverse birding opportunities of the natural areas of Palm Beach County. Let's go birding the Palm Beaches. Palm Beach County is one of the largest and most eco-diverse counties in all of Florida, and the Palm Beaches are a paradise of never-ending outdoor activities and things to do and see. An unmatched landscape of first-rate birding, incredible wildlife management areas, year-round fishing, a multitude of water sports, and exceptional beaches make this the best place to experience Florida. From the Everglades to the Atlantic Ocean, you are sure to find things to do that will stoke your passions and make lasting memories. Here in the Palm Beaches, birding and wildlife viewing is a big deal, even bigger than you might imagine. In fact, birding is second only to beach-related activities as a form of outdoor recreation for both visitors and residents. If you're already into birding, you probably know that Florida and Palm Beach County is considered one of the best places in the world for this activity. South Florida is a birding mecca, from the colorful and distinctive natural populations of wading birds to the specialties like Florida scrub jays and red-cockaded woodpeckers, combined with the winter migration of flocks from up north. Palm Beach County is truly a birdwatcher's paradise. Birds of a feather flock together in the Palm Beaches. Big birds, little birds, pink birds, blue birds. The Palm Beaches is one of the best birding spots in the country. Discover the Palm Beaches and experience one of America's top birding destinations.
There's a gentler side of Florida, just waiting for you to discover it, where America's first resort destination was built and genuine hospitality began. A place with cleaner sands, warmer waters, and fewer crowds. A place different than the rest, one that exceeds, excels, and surpasses all expectation, waiting here just for you. We are the original, the one, the only, the Palm Beaches.
Another really important consideration when photographing or getting close to birds and wildlife on the water is stability. You can see I've got my scope set up right here and my camera equipment. It's really stable, and I'm able to lock down on my subject and get some great images. And then for those occasions where you need increased elevation, these sit-on-top kayaks are really easy to stand up. They're very stable. All I do is I put my seat back, just like that. I can stand on the deck pad over here, use this, the back of the seat as stability, and then I can look with my binoculars at a bird over the riverbank, or pick up my point and shoot camera and take some wonderful clicks. Very stable, and you're not losing any equipment on a Hobie Pro Angler sit-on-top kayak. Birding the Palm Beaches is brought to you by Discover the Palm Beaches. Check out thepalmbeaches.tv to learn more. This morning we're in Juno Beach in the Palm Beaches, and today we're going to take you to some of the fantastic natural areas of this incredible birding hotspot. We're with Benji Stoot, and he's going to escort us around some of these areas. Where are we going this morning, Benj?
So we're starting here at Juno Dunes Natural Area, and this natural area is really special because of the diversity of habitats you can hit. It goes all the way from the ocean to the intercoastal. So we're going to hit 3 or 4 habitats right here this morning.
So when we talk about some of the specific species we can see along the coastline, let's start off right here on the beaches. And on the beaches here in winter, a specialty bird that we're looking for here in the Palm Beaches is the piping plover. A stunning small little bird. When you're looking at these birds, watch out for their bands, because many of these birds have been banded up in the Great Lakes or in regions further north. So have a look and try and see if you can identify the color band on the bird, and maybe, if you're lucky, even get a number, and you can then submit that and try and find out where these species came from. And then from the beaches, we can head to some of the great piers in Palm Beach County. So heading down to Lake Worth Pier, we've got Juno Pier behind us. These are fantastic spots to go sea watching and go out onto the piers, especially when there's been a strong north wind blowing or a strong easterly blowing, and you can see species like Audubon shearwater coming in really close, and you can get great birds like magnificent frigates. And once you've had your fill birding from the piers, why not head to some of the rocky shoreline areas of southern Palm Beaches? And we're talking about the Lake Worth area, and just before you cross the Lake Worth Bridge towards the beach, there's a fantastic area which has the southernmost population of American oyster catchers breeding right there in that particular area. Fantastic to go there, walk the boardwalks and look for species of wading birds, some shorebirds, and of course those beautiful and charismatic American oyster catchers. It just shows you provide the right habitat, you provide the right feeding grounds, and the birds, they will come.
All right, James, so we spent some time down here on the beach. We're going to walk a little bit up the beach here and head into the maritime hammock and check out the second habitat right here in Juno Dunes Natural Area.
You know, in Palm Beach County, we're pretty much right in the division between the temperate zones and the subtropics. This is where the subtropics begin. And right now we're in subtropical hardwood forest right here, or hammock as we like to call it. Benji, tell me what makes this area so special.
So just like you said, you start getting some of those tropical species that are coming up and intermixing with the other coastal species we have. We're underneath this canopy of these massive sea grapes here. So we've got this open understory, and this is a great place to search for songbirds, especially during the winter. So that's what we're going to be looking for here today.
And so this under canopy and understory here is really good for species like ovenbirds. I've even seen Swainson's warbler, a very tough to see warbler, down foraging in the sub canopy of these hardwood forests here. And then when you're looking up in the upper regions, you're looking for the more arboreal warbler species like yellow-throated warblers and other such species that will move through. So it's a fantastic area, and when there's a fallout, which happens when basically 2 weather systems collide and you can watch the weather really carefully, these hardwood hammocks are fantastic to get, you know, up to 15, 20 different species of warblers in one morning.
All right, James, so we've walked out of the hardwood hammock and we're entering our third habitat right here in Juno Dunes, the coastal scrub habitat.
And it looks like we're heading uphill. Now, we all think of Florida as remarkably flat, right? Well, this is reportedly the highest natural area in Palm Beach County. So it's going to be quite a hike to get up there. This is what we call a mountain in the Palm Beaches. Well, I tell you something, it's not Kilimanjaro, but we've reached the summit, the highest point on the barrier islands here in the Palm Beaches. And it's just a fantastic vista. You've got the ocean on that side, and then dipping down, we've got this incredible, beautiful coastal scrub heading off into the distance. Now, when I first got here, I remember seeing families of scrub jays here just 10 years ago. Unfortunately now, Florida scrub jays are functionally extinct here in this particular area, but we do have them further north in Jonathan Dickinson State Park.
So up on the top of the ridge here, the coastal scrub, this area, it took me a few years to really connect with this place because it looks like all the plants are struggling, but that's because this is really the desert microclimate right here in the Palm Beaches. Everything that lives here is adapted to deal with a tiny amount of water. You know, the coast doesn't get much rain, and the sugar sand, when it does rain, it goes straight through. So all the plants here are different. It's a fantastic place to come and look for different species of plants, but to find some of these scrub birds, like in the winter, the eastern towhees. They're really hard to get a look at, as you know, but you can almost always hear their song when you come up here in the scrub in the wintertime in the Palm Beaches.
You know, there's a little bit of a misconception about the coastline of southern Florida being wall-to-wall buildings. Yes, there is a lot of development in southern Florida, but it's amazing that right here in urban Palm Beach County, we've got these little pockets of incredible natural areas, and this example is one of them. So whether you live up north and you're a snowbird coming down here to enjoy the winter, or whether you're a visiting birder from out of town, come down here and explore these fantastic natural areas. We're very lucky, it's right on our doorsteps, but we want to share this with you.
There's a gentler side of Florida, just waiting for you to discover it, where America's first resort destination was built and genuine hospitality began. A place with cleaner sands, warmer waters, and fewer crowds. A place different than the rest, one that exceeds, excels, and surpasses all expectation, waiting here just for you. We are the original, the one, the only, the Palm Beaches.
Birding the Palm Beaches is brought to you by Discover the Palm Beaches. Check out thepalmbeaches.tv to learn more. So here we've got a whole group of warbler species. I've got pine warblers here, palm warblers. I've had a white-eyed vireo over here as well, all coming into my pishing in the early morning. We're at Jupiter Ridge Natural Area, and remember that it's not just the birds that are the star attractions here, because we've got a gopher tortoise right in its burrow over here. Let's go for a closer look. So these gopher tortoises are recognized as vulnerable by the IUCN and are actually an endangered species in Florida itself. This is what we would describe as a keystone species because these gopher tortoises, their burrows that they make, which are quite extensive under the sandy scrub of Florida, provide homes for over 300 different species of animals. So we really are so lucky to have such a keystone species right here in South Florida, aren't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, like you said, James, these tortoises provide habitat, not just for themselves, but so many other critters. And we're up here in the North County today, but you can see these gopher tortoises all throughout the county. So we moved over here to Jupiter Ridge. We knew these guys would be out and about here in the morning, trying to warm up. But down in South County, not just Yamato scrub and pondhawk like we talked about earlier, but seacrest scrub is another fabulous place to see gopher tortoises. And we actually have a program at Winding Waters Natural Area called the Waif Gopher Tortoise Program. The Waif Gopher Tortoise Program is a program for kind of abandoned or tortoises that were found somewhere, whether they were on a roadway, and they were brought to a rehabilitation center. And they really don't have a home to go back to. And so at Winding Waters, we've worked with FWC to create some good habitat, and we're releasing gopher tortoises there and actually doing some monitoring and tracking with those tortoises.
And they get really big, don't they, Benji?
They do, they do. The burrow right here, this is a good sized burrow, but it's amazing to think that these guys start out as little yellow and brown tortoises that are only about this big. So if you're lucky enough to see one that size, just think in decades it takes these guys to grow. They'll get up into this, 20, 30 pound range. These guys do get pretty big.
So Benji, tell me a little bit more about why herping has become such a big thing, especially in South Florida. I mean, people are coming out from way out of town, up north, specifically to look for reptiles here in South Florida.
Right, and it's because of the diversity of reptiles and also amphibians. Those folks that are herping, and gopher tortoise burrows are a great place to look around because there are those commensals that use this habitat. So I'm hoping that you all can see this sinuous line here in the sand of the apron, and what we're looking at here is the tracks of snakes that have been coming in and out of this gopher tortoise burrow. Some of those commensals, those herps that we were talking about. And just as we were walking up, I saw a coach whip dash into the scrub here. So that's one of those relatives of the black racer, a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, brown and tan in color. Just a really cool find right here at Jupiter Ridge.
One thing I'd really just like to stress is with gopher tortoises, please don't disturb them. A lot of people think, oh, when they see a tortoise, they can pick it up and it's not going to do any damage, they can put it back down again. Well, what happens with tortoises, especially in really dry areas, is that when you pick up a tortoise, it'll often release all the liquid that it's been gathering to survive. And if it does not find water within a few days, and it's a particularly dry period, that tortoise can die. So you've got to be really careful not to disturb them, don't get too close, but certainly enjoy them at a safe distance. Birds of a feather flock together in the Palm Beaches. Big birds, little birds, pink birds, blue birds. The Palm Beaches is one of the best birding spots in the country. Discover the Palm Beaches and experience one of America's top birding destinations.
So Palm Beach County's natural areas, over 31,000 acres in the county. They're not just about birding, although the birding is incredible here. But there are so many other ways that you can experience the natural areas and so many other things to do. You can paddle in emergent wetlands like the one behind me here. You can go fishing, bring your fishing rod, wet a line as you're paddling, but we also have fishing piers from land at places like Pine Glades, Cypress Creek, here at Winding Waters Natural Area. So great places to wet a line, get some of those big largemouth bass. If you're an equestrian, ride your horse. There are equestrian trails on several of our natural areas. Come check out Palm Beach County's natural areas. You won't be disappointed. Palm Beach County's 31,000 acres of natural areas are not only home to the swallow-tailed kite, but also to their predators. And their main predator is the great horned owl. The great horned owls being here tells us that this is a really productive ecosystem. There's plenty of prey items. One of the reasons that they're the kite's major predator is because they're such a generalist and they're so adaptable. A lot of times when they will predate kites, they do it at night when the kites are sitting on the nest. And they can do that because they have incredible eyesight and incredible hearing. So these birds, they have feathers on their face that make a facial disc, And those tufts, those horns, those feathers all funnel sound to these birds' ears. And what that does is it allows them to hear sounds as small as even a mouse squeak from about 900 feet away. That's 3 football fields away. They can hunt pretty much just by using that sense, their hearing. But they also have incredible eyesight. And so what they do is they have the ability to turn their head 270 degrees around in either direction. So they can almost turn their head all the way around. And that allows them to look around, but having those fixed eyeballs in their skull really, really enhances their ability to see, especially in low light. Another great thing about these predators is their feathers. Their feathers are adapted to be as quiet as possible in flight. And when they fly, they're almost completely silent. They range from the tundra all the way down to South America. They have another amazing adaptation, their talons and their talon strength. And that's what enables these birds to take prey that is even heavier than they are. So these birds can take prey like skunks. They can take prey like Canada geese. They will even attack other raptors, of course the swallow-tailed kite, but will even take raptors as big as red-tailed hawks. So just incredible, incredible birds, and the talons on these things are amazing. Putting down 30 pounds of pressure, and those talons will pierce skin, they'll break bone, and that's what really allows these birds to be so successful. And Palm Beach County's natural area is one of the areas where you can see them.
Birding the Palm Beaches is brought to you by Discover the Palm Beaches. Check out thepalmbeaches.tv to learn more.
All right, so James, we're out here at Pine Glades, and in the short drive from Jupiter Ridge out here, we passed Delaware Scrub, Limestone Creek, North Jupiter Flatwoods, and Cypress Creek natural areas, and also Riverbend Park. There's just so much to see here in the Palm Beaches, and in this short walk into the natural area here, I mean, we've already seen a ton of birds.
Just coming here this morning, we've seen sandhill cranes and great wading birds, great blue herons, and we've seen tricolored herons and little blue herons. So just a great diversity of wading birds, and this place is really good for overwintering waterfowl too. So it's just a fantastic area with a lot of diversity, and the most important bird here from probably a biological and conservation standpoint are the snail kites that we saw when we walked in.
Right, absolutely, and we can see here on the ground why these snail kites are here. I mean, the ground is just littered with these apple snails, and this is the main prey item of the snail kites and also the limpkins that are out here as well. And like I said, the shoreline is just littered with these things, so we can tell just how productive this habitat is.
And there are 2 species of apple snails, right? There's an invasive apple snail species, and then there's the Florida apple snail. Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. So the invasive species, it's the main one we see is the larger apple snail species, the Channel Island apple snail. And you know, we were really worried in the biological community about what effect the exotic apple snails coming into this habitat would have specifically on the endangered snail kites. But we're lucky enough to have Mark Cook here, and he can tell us a little bit about how the snail kites have actually adapted and are thriving with this new exotic snail.
Well, stick with us, because on our way in here, we came across Mark Cook on his day off, and he's here to tell us a little bit more about the snail kites and how important they are to this fragile ecosystem. You know, Mark, it's always amazing to me that you think that at certain times in Florida's history, there have been incredibly low numbers of snail kites. And I've heard figures that snail kites were perilously close to extinction in Florida, and probably only 60 to 80 birds remaining at some stage. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, yes, the issue with South Florida is we've changed the management of the water to such an extent. We drained so many habitats, so many wetland habitats. We've changed the way the hydrology operates, and that's really impacted the main prey of the snail kite, which is the apple snail, the Florida apple snail. And because that native species has declined so much, you know, obviously with the snail kite being a specialist, that snail kite population plummeted. Even 10 years ago, 2008, 2007, populations of snail kites were heading straight down. We were really worried that we were actually going to lose them from South Florida. But this exotic species of apple snail, their populations expanded considerably, and literally it was the lifesaver for this endangered species we have, the snail kite. Really what we want is to restore wetlands to get the native species back. There's a number of studies that have shown that these exotic species may have some sort of impacts. They potentially might have diseases that may impact the native snails or even the snail kite themselves. We're showing in various studies, various experiments, that these larger snails actually outgrow the native species. If these guys are expanding and the native species decline, we've got problems, because sometimes these exotic species, their populations expand and then all of a sudden they drop. So if we have a drop with this exotic species, we could be at square one again with the kite.
Absolutely, and you know, we're talking about a species here that has evolved to feed on a niche in the environment on one particular species, the apple snail. So when you look at a snail kite and you look at its bill, it's got that down curved bill, and when you watch them feeding, it's absolutely fascinating, because they'll pick up a snail from the surface of the water and they'll take it to a perch, and then they will shuck the inside of that snail with that incredibly well-designed bill to pull out the meat inside that snail. And it's a fascinating process to watch, and it really is amazing that these two species, the survival of these two species, is so dependent not only on the water levels in Florida, but also on each other. A lot of birders, when they come down to Palm Beach County, they don't often think of snail kites as a target species, because most birders will look for them around areas like Okeechobee and furthermore in the central or northern areas of the state. But right here in Palm Beach County, you have some fantastic habitat for snail kites. And I think we've got one right here, Mark.
Yes, we've got one right up in these trees up here. And here in Pine Glades, these wetlands, they're shorter hydroperiod wetlands that surround the Everglades. They're the old headwaters of the Everglades, and these natural areas are absolutely essential for breeding birds actually in the Everglades. At this time of year, there's nothing breeding in the Everglades, but the wading birds and the snail kites and everything else, they still need food, and they need to build up their energy to get into breeding condition. And so these wetlands are absolutely crucial. They can support hundreds, if not thousands, of foraging birds prior to them nesting in the Everglades. So that's why these areas are just so important.
Absolutely, and so fantastic that just a 10 or 15 minute drive from the urban areas of Palm Beach County, we can get into one of these natural areas and view a Florida speciality, the Florida snail kite. Now, these ephemeral wetlands are not only important for birds, but a whole diverse variety of other wildlife, like bobcats. And here this morning, we've got fresh footprints of a nice bobcat that's been walking down, probably had a drink of water here, and is now headed back into the thick scrub.
So we're still in Pine Glades, and we're about a mile down south of the parking lot here. I left James and Mark, they're locked in on the snail kite up north, but I wanted to come down here and highlight this habitat here, this low grass and low palmetto and scattered pines. And this is a great spot to come and look for the northern bobwhite. So bobwhites used to be really numerous here in South Florida all throughout the state, but FWC is actually asking the public to report sightings now because their range has contracted so much. And the reason for that, in large part, is fire suppression. So the actual fact that we are reintroducing prescribed fire here on our natural areas, this land here we're standing in did not look like this 10 years ago. It was grown up, bushes all over the place, palmettos, but with the reintroduction of fire and management, we have this low grass here and low palmetto habitat that the bobwhites love. And now this is one of the best places and most consistent places where you can come out in the springtime and hear these birds, and if you're lucky, even see one.